In today's news, residents are accused of taking advantage of the government's food relief system.
St. Lucia Cabinet agrees to a 75% pay cut. All this and more when 284 News returns.
Is business slow? Cash flow down? Hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
Welcome everybody. It's a Thursday, April 23rd, 2020. A terrific Thursday that is in the beautiful British Virgin Islands. I'm Ron Grant.
And I am Javon Wilson. So thrilled to be joining you once again, viewers. Now, before we head into our newscast, I just want to use this opportunity to give a quick shout out to all the persons delivering food on behalf of the people of the Virgin Islands. Definitely, we know some persons are working and volunteering with government. Also, there are the delivery services. But Ron, as you know, persons continue to complain about having to pay for groceries, especially at varying prices. Now, one of the things I would love to highlight today is the fact that a group of young individuals, the person that I know of the group is Massa Passa. We know him very popularly on social media, but himself and a group of about 5 or 6 young persons in the community took it upon themselves to form a volunteer group that is now going about and delivering food for free. Now, Ron, just last night in one of his live videos, you know, really speaking to the fact that so many persons are in need and not everyone can afford to pay that delivery fee as we speak. So, you know, he mentioned one of the individuals, one of the women who was paying for her groceries. She literally had to pay in coins. And that really speaks to the magnitude of the struggles we have right here in the BVI. So we are so grateful to not only him, but all the other members of that new group who has been granted permission, not only by the police, but also by One-Mart Supermarket, Mr. Vanderpool, Honorable Mark Vanderpool, to go ahead and proceed with delivering the much needed supplies for people in need. All right, viewers, straight into our newscast. As the government continues to supply thousands of households with the much needed supplies, it seems like a few persons may be working against their efforts. Just about a week ago, in our 284 Media exclusive interview with the Family Support Network Director, Mrs. Sasha Stout, we learned that indeed persons are trying to take advantage of the system. Let's watch.
One of the concerns initially floating around was that persons who probably do not need the care would be reaching out, of course, essentially shortening the person's needs, the supply for persons who are truly in need. Have we come into contact with any such situation? And speak specifically to the criteria for me.
Okay, we have come in contact with individuals who we have noted. It actually was brought up to us when we were doing the initial, before the second part lockdown, before the 14 days instance. And we had individuals who'd come to us for assistance, and then they were still going to maybe another government official within their district for assistance. We were able to pinpoint some of those individuals and let them know that they had to choose one or the other. It was not fair, nor was it effective for other people in the situation that they were in to receive, you know, that just couldn't work. We also
have people who live with other people.
Yeah.
And it would be like 4 or 5 of them living in an apartment.
8 of them sometimes.
8 sometimes. And what they would try to do is call and give us everybody in the apartment's name. So one of the things that we ask is, how many people do you live with?
Yeah.
Are they all adults? And then if we go to deliver, and we have gone to deliver and realized that they were all living in the same place, and we just leave like enough for who is there, but we don't leave all the bags.
Right.
Because we refuse to do that, because there are other people out there who are really desperately in need, and some people are just trying to take advantage
of the situation. And we are trying our best to weed those individuals out. The reality is there's always going to be those situations, but we do not want those that really need the assistance to not come in, and those that really need assistance not to get it. Because a lot of
Those are two incredible women, of course, spearheading the efforts at the Family Support Network. Now, just about a day after the government decided that Family Support Network will no longer be handling those cases, and persons were now advised to reach out to the Social Development Department and BVI Red Cross. Nevertheless, viewers, we continue to see persons trying to take advantage of the system. On Tuesday, radio host Skelton Klein said, quote, "The drivers are going to come and they're going to deliver the packages and they're not going to say anything to you. But we know and we are tracking. So those of you who have done it, we got you. But those of you who are thinking about doing it, we want to put you on guard and to stop it." End of quote. Now, other volunteers within the effort have also attested to the fact that many persons are attempting to have more than one package delivered to the same location. Some residents have been accused of double dipping and plain out lying to ministers and district representatives about not receiving packages when indeed they did. So, Ron, obviously here the system devised by government is not working. As seamlessly as they thought. You know, we reached out to the team in charge just to get a total of how many packages were requested, but up to press time that information was not provided. But nevertheless, based on what we've been hearing so far, just about 8,000 persons have signed up for the home care packages. Wow. At this point, you know, we do not know how many of those were sent out, but clearly we see here a very blatant attempt by some to defy those incredible efforts by government to feed the persons in need, Ron.
Absolutely. It's daunting, and it's, to be, you know, lack of a better word, it's just disappointing to see residents do that at the end of the day. But like you said, Jovan, systems may not work as well as we would like it to. It's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, I hope the government is taking note so that in the final analysis, when we do, if we ever have to come to this again, we would know exactly how to handle it.
Definitely, and, you know, in light of what's happening, we know for sure that the government did not have a lot of time to put together a comprehensive plan because of, you know, what's happening, and there's a lot of loopholes in the system. You know, one person specifically said that they had to sign up for government packages simply because, you know, the orders didn't come through in time, and that's the predicament we're facing with the supermarket orders being backed up. A lot of persons are now resorting to those packages because they are in need. While they can afford it, the issue remains at hand that they need the stuff now. So one of the things we're going to look at, I think, or one of the opportunities rather coming out of this crisis is the fact that I think this is a great opportunity for the government of the Virgin Islands to really have an extensive view of what's going on. We already know there is a social assistant program through the Social Development Department that caters to BV Islanders belongers, but I think this opportunity specifically really gives government a broader view of the needs of the territory, the persons who are vulnerable, the persons who may be going hungry in this instance. And I think it's really important that we capitalize on this information now, that we document this information now, because again, the BVI is within one of the disaster-prone regions.
Correct.
And, you know, Hurricane Irma is another crisis that we went through in the past, and hurricane season is upon us once again. So this is a critical time for us to really assess the needs of our population going forward.
I could not agree more, Jovan. And continuing on, coming out of St. Lucia's Cabinet of Ministers has agreed to a 75% salary reduction to help tackle the COVID-19 economic crisis. Loop News confirmed yesterday, Wednesday, April 22nd. Ahead of Tuesday's sitting of the House of Parliament, Commerce Minister Bradley Felix disclosed that discussions regarding pay cuts for parliamentarians was in its advanced stages, which would cause the Cabinet of Ministers to take home 25% of their salaries. He said, and I quote, "The parliamentarians were the first on the block as it relates to that," adding that it's across the board. Discussions between the government of St. Lucia and trade unions who represent public sector workers have been making rounds on social platforms as the various parties negotiate salary payments for workers over the next 3 months amid COVID-19 crisis. According to documents from the Ministry of Finance, which has been circulating in the public domain, the St. Lucia's government's monthly revenue has dropped from $110 million monthly to about $30 million over the last 2 months, which clearly shows, Jovan, that COVID-19 has been affecting the island. This has therefore created a cash flow crisis for the government, which has to pay civil servants salaries of $43 million a month, whilst also servicing debt payments of approximately $40 million a month. Rumors about civil servants taking 50% pay cut have been circulating. However, the government of St. Lucia and the various unions are still in discussions on the matter. According to a letter sent to the trade unions from the government, the following is proposed. Workers in grades 1 to 7 receive 100% of their salaries. Workers in grades 8 to 18 receive 50% of their salary in cash and 50% in the form of government investment bond for 3 months. Workers in grades 19 to 21 receive 25% of their salary in cash and 75% of that in the form of government bond for another 3 months. Government pensioners receive 100% of their monthly pension. Felix added the unions were also given the opportunity to come up with various options which have not actually materialized as yet. They have been given some additional time to discuss all of these options. It is one of those things, one of those moments where it is extremely trying times and we have to try to think out of the box how we can deal with the shortfall in revenue. Many world leaders are taking unique steps to handle the unprecedented situation. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern announced that she and other top government officials would take a 20% pay cut during the coronavirus pandemic. The salaries of members of government, members of parliament, government advisors and directors of government-owned companies in Aruba would be taking a 10% pay cut amidst the COVID-19 crisis until December 31st, 2020. Now, although negotiations are still underway with trade unions, it has been confirmed by senior government officials in St. Lucia that the Cabinet of Ministers who do not form part of the trade union have agreed amongst themselves to take a 75% salary reduction as part of efforts to help with government's cash flow issues during this COVID-19 pandemic. Now, Jovan, we would all recall the present leader of government business in the BVI, the Honorable Andrew A. Foy, while sitting on the opposition, asking the then Smith administration to take a salary cut in wake of the hurricanes of 2017, Irma and Maria. Now, as the territory struggles to maneuver through the global pandemic, that is COVID-19, which many would debate is far worse than the hurricanes of 2017, we see no word of similar suggestions in this case. Back in 2017, while speaking on a local radio program, Honorable Foy said, and I quote, "It may not make much of a dent on government expenditure, but if there is any move to cut civil servants' pay, cabinet ministers should take a pay cut too." Honorable Foy at the time further said, though that may not solve the financial problems, it will be a sign of good leadership and example. The then opposition leader and chairman of the Virgin Islands Party mentioned that the base salary for backbenchers is $36,000 plus allowances, while ministers collect more than $100,000. According to Honorable Foy, the ministers' salaries should have come down on the level of other elected representatives for the time being. He also suggested that the 2 junior ministers' posts be eliminated. Now, his statements at the time were in specific regards to rumors of a possible cut to the civil servants' pay. Honorable Foy said that if this is to happen, cabinet members should lead from the front and also take a pay cut, since finance is the responsibility of the government, even though civil servants come under the responsibility of the deputy governor. Now, he also said a decision on a pay cut has to be openly discussed with public servants and not let a decision of senior officials, since, and I quote, "greedy will not help the needy," noting that senior persons tasked with making pay cut decisions will tend to protect their interest only. Now, we presented the option of a pay cut to residents of the Virgin Islands via a poll to see what their thoughts were on whether cabinet members should take a pay cut in wake of COVID-19 pandemic and the absence of a stimulus package. To date, 64% of those taking that survey, BVI residents, are of the opinion that BVI cabinet members should consider a similar salary slash in wake of COVID-19 and the absence of a stimulus package, while 36% are against such a suggestion. Again, Jovan, many world leaders are taking unique steps to handle the unprecedented situation, but locally it appears that these conversations are not being had.
Well, we don't know that for sure. What we do know is that in times of crisis, what we see is the gap between the vulnerable and the financially stable, that gap seemingly widens. And one of the things we've been seeing across the world, Ron, just like St. Lucia's, many governments adopting this strategy. Even the premier, while he was on the opposition, like you mentioned, rooted for measures like these because it really shows the people where your minds are at as leaders, as persons leading the charge for the territory. Now, one of the things we know for sure is that this is unprecedented. We know that the BVI does not have any incoming revenue from the United Kingdom, from tourism being one of our prime economic pillars. There is no revolving revenue in the territory as it is. We are now fully dependent on a reserve that is only going to last so long, and with little to no economic activity even within the territory as we speak, it's only about so much time before that reserve goes out. So we have to resort to managing what we have, and I think it will be very considerable. While it's probably not illegal for them not to do it. I think certainly it would, really speak to their character as officials within the government to say, listen, we are all on the same page, and this is what I'm willing to do in order to facilitate the needs and of the people of this territory.
Well, if we look at the St. Lucia model, again, it's 75%, and to many that is a lot. I do agree that it is a large percentage, and we see where other countries are not doing as much. Some are doing 10%, some are doing 20%. So there's not a particular number or figure on it. It's really up to the discretion, of the cabinet members. But it is something that I think should be considered, and we see what becomes of it if those conversations would come forth locally.
I know the premier is a good man. He's well intended, and many of the officials, we can speak the same for them. So I think it's just a matter of time before this decision comes forward. I know we are still waiting on the stimulus package. Maybe upon that announcement, we'll know what their stance is on that. But viewers, we have so much more ahead. The CDC chief says second, possibly worse COVID-19 outbreak is possible this winter. And as cases continue to mount in the Caribbean, we see St. Lucia celebrating a 100% recovery. All this and so much more when we return.
Some claim that the age of a true gentleman is far behind us, but here at 284 Media, we disagree. He may appear in different guises today, but the values and ideals that make him a gent still stand. 284 Media proudly presents its newest talk show, The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, with yours truly, Ron Grant. A show poised to help guide modern-day men into 21st century distinguished gentlemen. Don't worry, it's not all about suits and bow ties, but raw, real-life lessons that translate to grounded, community-minded, well-rounded men. The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, a 284 Media production.
Viewers, welcome back. You are watching 284 News. Now, as of April 22nd, 2020, St. Lucia has a total of 15 cases, but to date, all of those cases would have recovered. That is a 100% recovery rate on the island of St. Lucia. They have two cases who probably those two persons would have tested negative just recently, bringing the total to 15. So great news coming out of St. Lucia. This now places St. Lucia at a 100% recovery of all their COVID-19 cases. Now, among the 15 cases St. Lucia recorded were individuals who fell within the category of high risk by virtue of some being elderly, as well as some living with chronic illnesses. They too would have recovered well with no complications or needed critical care. Now, laboratory testing for COVID-19 continues to be conducted both locally and with the support of the Caribbean Public Health Agency Laboratory. St. Lucia has modified its testing strategy by testing an increased number of samples from community respiratory clinics. This would assist us, of course, in the assessment of COVID-19 in St. Lucia. St. Lucia also continues on the partial lockdown and on a 10-hour curfew that runs from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. daily. Mr. Allen, which is the Prime Minister, said they remain at a very critical position in the implementation of the national response to COVID-19. Large-scale public health and social measures have been implemented, in an effort to break the transmission of COVID-19. When in-country transmission was noted, the public must also note that many of those measures need to be sustained in an effort to achieve the COVID-19 levels within the country. Some measures that have been instituted include closing of schools, national zoning to manage the population movement, the closure of non-essential businesses, travel restrictions, the partial national shutdown, instituting a 24-hour curfew as well. Now, cases in the Caribbean, viewers, have now amounted to about 8,976 cases, with St. Bartholomew being the only other location with a full recovery, with all of their 6 cases fully recovered. The BVI recorded its 5th case, as we all know, of COVID-19 on April 19th, bringing our total to about 5 confirmed cases with 3 recoveries, 1 death, and 1 current active case. Now, Ron, we celebrate within the Caribbean region so many victories when it comes to the COVID-19 compared to the rest of the world and to the magnitude of infection across the globe. We see the Caribbean really taking measures to ensure that the spread is contained within our respective countries. We're really celebrating St. Lucia. Now, based on the efforts locally within the health department, the BVI Health Services, the Ministry of Health, and all the other officials within that charge, we clearly see that soon enough the BVI might be joining that list once we continue on those health efforts.
Jovan, we are absolutely thankful for our brothers and sisters over there in St. Lucia, and as you said, we do hope the same for us as we continue in this fight. Continuing on as it pertains to COVID-19, the director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has said in a recent interview that a second coronavirus outbreak could emerge this winter in conjunction with the flu season to make for an even more dire health crisis. CDC Director Robert Redfield said, and I quote, "There's a possibility that the assault on the virus on our nation next winter will actually be even more difficult than the one we just went through. And when I've said this to others, they kind of put their head back. They don't understand what I mean." He continued on by saying, "We're going to have the flu epidemic and the coronavirus epidemic at the same time, predicting a dual assault on the healthcare system. While there are shots to help prevent the flu and drugs to help treat it, unlike with the novel coronavirus, which still has no approved treatment or vaccine, it remains a deadly infection. The flu season has begun or has been underway since September 2019, and while the flu activity now is considered low, the season has seen a high number of hospitalizations and infections, killing at least 168 children, according to the CDC. Last year, the flu killed at least 34,200 Americans and made an estimated 35.5 million people sick. To have both the flu and the coronavirus circulating at the same time could overwhelm hospitals and doctors' offices that are already stretched thin in a bad flu season." Redfield's comments come as several governors look to partially reopen their states' economies, loosening some restrictions aimed at limiting the spread of the virus, despite concerns of subsequent increases in coronavirus cases. We've seen, Jovan, where protesters have come in multiple states against governors' orders and largely adhere to federal guidelines. And President Donald Trump, of course, has encouraged them to liberate their states in tweets. Now, when asked about the protests and the subsequent calls to open states earlier, Redfield said, and I quote, "It's not helpful." While Trump unveiled guidance last week to help states loosen their social distancing restrictions, Redfield called for state officials to spend the next few months preparing for the next phase by continuing to tout social distancing and scaling up testing and contact tracking. Looking ahead, Redfield cited the need for a preventative campaign to emphasize the importance of flu shots to reduce flu hospitalizations. He said that getting a flu vaccine may allow there to be a hospital bed available for your mother or grandmother that may get the coronavirus. Jovan, this is something that we have been dreading, the conversations. People really don't want to talk about it because we're literally fighting the battle as we speak, but it is something that we should be considered. It's a major story coming out of the CDC. We have to be mindful and cautious that the coronavirus epidemic can continue on into the flu pandemic. So we see where we could be struggling with both at the same time. And similarly, when we go into the hurricane season, which we're going to be approaching soon, we could be dealing with coronavirus and the hurricane season at the same time, which is supposed to be very active. So a lot to take in, a lot to consider, and I know persons don't want to talk about it, but we absolutely have to keep them informed and help them to be mindful of this.
One of the things coming forward out of the coronavirus, and with all the information we've been disseminating through our forums and across the world media in general, is that people are overwhelmed with everything that is going on. And it's a lot to take in, like you said. But these are things, critical areas that we have to continue to look at and examine. Like you said, the BVI is within the the hurricane-prone region, and that's creeping up on us. And another thing coming out of that winter story is the fact that we know for sure that even the coronavirus, it thrives in cold atmospheres. They're saying, in hotter atmospheres, persons are less prone to contract the virus, and it really slows the spread. But ultimately, what it does is it puts a real strain on our health resources as we continue to fight COVID-19. As it is right now, we know for sure that there's so many shortages across the world. We're seeing countries fighting for the resources. We're seeing even within the United States of America, which is supposed to be the hub right now for the resources, even within the United States, we're seeing governors within the various states fighting for the much needed supplies. So this is why it's so imperative, again, viewers, in order for us to assist our health officials, we must do our part in slowing the spread. This means we must continue to sanitize. We must continue to apply proper etiquette when we're sick. If you are sick, follow the right protocols instead of heading into the hospital. Of course, call the medical hotline, because ultimately what we want to do is flatten that curve as much as possible to ease the strain on our health resources. All right, viewers, that is it for today's news roundup. Be sure to like us for daily news updates on 284media.com. You can also like us on Facebook at 284media and 284BVI, on Instagram as well as Twitter. Also, we just want to say thank you to all the persons who continue to share our material, our content with the rest of the world at this much needed time, as well as for joining us today. My name is Javon Wilson.
And I'm Ron Grant. We'll see you again tomorrow as we deliver your daily dose of local, regional, and international content. We're 284 News, your source for honest and impartial news, right here on 284 Media. Happy Thursday, everybody. Bye-bye.
We understand that you cannot come to the store and encourage you to stay at home. If you need assistance with bill payments, top-ups, or troubleshooting, we are here to help. Call us at 444-4444 from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily, or visit our website at www.cctbvi.com. Click Top Up here or My CCT for top-up or bill payments. Social distancing with CCT.
In the final analysis, we have two options: stay inside and create memories that will last forever, or go outside and say goodbye to those memories. We're not stuck inside, we're safer inside. The time is now to unite, embrace, and love each other from a distance. Show the world and the people in it just how much they mean to you by keeping your distance. It may be difficult, but necessary. Let's reintroduce humanity and heart to all homes. While we can't enjoy the sun, sand, and sea, let's take this time to remember why we are nature's little secrets. Stay inside, and when it's over, we would all be better, stronger, and we would all still be together. With self-discipline and patience, we can overcome. We are, have been, and will always be VI Strong. A message from your team at 284 Media.
May I assist you? Yes. You want top of our?
You want top of power?
Join the prepaid party with CCT and enjoy more affordable data plans, more top-up promotions, more savings with hero bundles, and more value for your money each and every Tuesday with Top Up Turn Up Tuesday. Visit a CCT store today or anywhere CCT Top Up is sold and top up your phone.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. You want top up or?
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
Brilliant Hands and Minds tutoring services, one-on-one tutorials in math and English, intense homework assistance, academic enrichment, school projects, effective communication and public speaking development, sign language for adults and children on Saturdays only. Registered with the Virgin Islands High School Certificate Program, Brilliant Hands and Minds can help you too. Offering intense curriculum-based training to help you or your loved ones get their high school diploma. It's time to make your family's education a #1 priority. Hurry, space is limited. Brilliant Hands and Minds Learning Center. We are the trained education professionals.